All right, in this short demo, we're going to show you how to convert Kaggle's American Express default prediction competition into a Kubeflow pipeline using the open source Kale JupyterLab extension. So picking up from where the last demo left off, we have our notebook that we've already configured that is up and running, as well as a Kaggle secret, which is going to allow us to not have to specify our Kaggle credentials at runtime in order to get access to the competition data. So with that, we can simply go ahead and connect to the notebook. And once we are in the notebook, then we'll want to go to the examples directory. And once inside of the examples directory, we're going to want to navigate to the American Express directory. And then from there, we want to locate the Kale notebook. And with the notebook open, there's a few things that we want to do first. We're going to want to install our necessary packages. So let's go ahead and do a pip install, which is going to call a requirements.txt file. And once all those requirements have been downloaded, let's go ahead and restart the kernel. And from here, we're ready to go ahead and go into the sidebar and enable the Kale extension. And you can see that our notebook has now become annotated. So let's walk through these annotations. The first one is going to be an imports cell. The next one is going to be a pipeline parameters cell. And then we move on to our first pipeline step, which is going to be the download data step. And then next up is our second pipeline step, which is the load dataset step. And then we move on to our section here where we want to define some functions. And then we move on to our third pipeline step, which is the feature engineering step. And then we move on to the modeling step. And you can see that we're using an annotation there to define it as a pipeline step. And then we move on to our final pipeline step, which is going to be the evaluation pipeline step. And finally, you can also see that there are two pipeline metrics that we want to specify. So you can see that we didn't actually do any coding. Instead, we used annotations. So with that said, we're ready to just go ahead and click the compile and run button. You can see we validated the notebook, took a snapshot, compiled it, and ran the pipeline. We click on the view details button, and we're taken to the runtime execution graph. And here we're going to see our pipeline execute in real time. You can see we've created a volume, we've downloaded our data, we're loading our data, doing some feature engineering, and then we move on to the modeling step, and then we wrap things up with the evaluation result. And from here, we're able to look at the run output for this particular pipeline, and we can also look at the configuration of this particular pipeline. Coming back to the execution graph, you can click on any of the steps and get more information in regards to input and output parameters, details, logs, pods, events, as well as artifact information. And that's it. You have successfully created a Kubeflow pipeline using the open source Kale JupyterLab extension for the American Express default prediction Kaggle competition.